Good evening. Welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diabloii.net. I'm your host, Flux, and I'm joined on the show tonight by Nerdwords.
Hello.
And Empty One, making his triumphant return.
Hello.
You hadn't played since Season 1, but now you're back.
Not quite that long of a hiatus.
Well, Season 1 was the one that was like 11 months long, right? So
that's true. It was like a year.
Season 2 was like a weekend, and then Season 3 was, 4 months?
Sounds about right.
And now we're into Season 4. I have not had much time to play in Season 4. You guys have, so let's get into some of what you've been doing so far this new season. My entire seasonal experience can be pretty well summed up by not very many words. I was on briefly, what is it tonight? Tonight is Sunday night. I was on briefly Friday night, and Katniss was on there, and he had just hit Paragon 600. He was like 602. This season, hardcore.
Yeah, no, he's almost 700 now. He's 683 as of right now.
Yeah, so I texted him. I said, how's the season going? Are you still playing your first character? Have you died, etc.? He's like, yeah. He's going pretty good. And he's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, dude, it's been a week and I'm level 63. What does that tell you? he's like, truth. And then that was pretty much into the conversation. He is Paragon 7,000 already. What is your Paragon, Nerdwords? You're playing a new character, right? You're doing a Crusader this time because you finally got sick of Wizards?
Yeah, no, I'm still playing Wizard. I'm currently playing because time and what have you, and Paragon 132. I was gone. I rushed for the beginning of the season, did my usual thing, and then I had to get on a plane the morning afterwards and flew out for a business trip, and I just got back yesterday, so I jumped back in last night, and I've been playing a bunch. Really enjoying the new patch, but I'm way behind everyone, so my friends are currently carrying me through T8, so it's nice.
Well, you can catch up fast. You go from P1 to like P50 in like 2 games.
Yeah.
And then
basically.
And once you get your 6-piece set, you can just immediately get to like P400, especially if you have multiplayer, which is a big topic for later, of course, the whole multiplayer versus single-player thing.
Yeah.
But so what are you up to, Empty One? You haven't played in a while? You came back for the season, or you've been going strong since last weekend?
Well, it was a little bit of an odd circumstance last weekend. You'll remember last time I was on the podcast, I was excited and hoping that the season would start before the school year. It didn't quite happen. But I played on Friday night. The season launched. And then I live up in Washington State. We had a big windstorm. It knocked out power for 2 days. So I didn't get to play Saturday or Sunday. And then when power came back up, my lovely ISP Comcast couldn't quite get their service back for another 2 days. So I started playing on Wednesday again. And I've played a couple of hours each night since then. And then basically all day yesterday and most of today. And I'm at 180 right now. Paragon 180 with a Crusader, hardcore. Having a blast with the new light set.
So we're pretty much full of excuses tonight here, in other words. I've hardly played it all. Nerdbird was out of town, and you're blaming acts of God.
He obviously had better things for me to do, I guess.
Did you take up like knitting or something when you had no internet for 4 days? Did you rediscover the joys of interpersonal communication?
I live in one of the states where you can actually do your heating via wood burning, since we have an excess of that. So I chopped some wood, got that stuff together for the winter.
Oh, you're like a lumberjack. Like, did you tame a grizzly bear or anything?
Oh, I wish. That would have been awesome to have a grizzly bear pet, or maybe like a druid who turns into a grizzly bear. That'd be sweet.
That'll be in the expansion. So we're ahead of ourselves there.
I hope.
Well, how has Season 4 been different for you guys? I mean, obviously, Kanai's Cube was a new addition. That was a thing. Of course, you don't really get into that until level 70, unless you're maybe building up some materials in advance just to get ready for it. You've rushed every season, so this is actually your slowest season, right, so far?
Yeah, just because of time away. I mean, my played time, though, considering where I'm at, is freaking insane. I don't think I've played 12 hours yet, and I'm at Paragon 132. That's pretty absurd. So, but no, it's been vastly different. I mean, the cube does change the dynamic a little bit, but it also makes you think more about what you're going to do and how you want to spend your time. As soon as we hit 70 and I got to where I could do a pretty quick run through bounties, we did a couple bounties, got enough materials to run. I think we had like 6 materials of each, and then just sat on that for a little while. So I haven't spent a lot of time doing bounties for that reason. But I found myself cubing things I wouldn't normally, like, I thought, when the season would start that you would just cube basically the 3 or 4 things you're going to use and that's it. But you find yourself kind of cubing like useful things on your way up, and it's pretty useful. It's pretty cool. I can say though that I've got a friend who's never played like competitively in seasons or anything like that before, and it's his first time experiencing everything. He doesn't even know what legendary gems are, and considering that he's caught on pretty quickly. So I think that goes to show with development and all this stuff added in, it's still pretty good for a person who's never played to be able to jump in and check it out. I think that's pretty cool.
Have you noticed a big difference because you can't slow roll grifts anymore? Are you
Yeah.
much slower to get your legendary gems together?
I, in fact, only have 4 gems right now currently because I'm waiting until I can clear a little bit better before I get really start grinding out the legendary gems. So yeah, that's been vastly different because usually that's the first thing you do.
So how's it going for you, Empty One?
So
you didn't play much last season, but is Kanai's Cube changing up your play style, etc.?
Well, last season I kind of hit my goal of like 400 Paragon, and then I kind of just put it to the side. I'm hoping to go beyond that this time, especially since Crusader is by far my least played class. So Kanai's Cube was awesome because I had planned out exactly what I was going to do at each step of the way. I wouldn't consider myself a competitive player by any stretch of the imagination, but I am one that likes to have goals when I play, like what I'm going to do with my time that I have. I kind of lucked out as I was leveling up. I got a Leoric's Crown. That was the helmet I wanted to go ahead and put the legendary power in for. I also got a Thunder Fury. And so like right as I hit 70, I did some bounties, and I threw those 2 things into the Kanai's Cube, and it made a huge difference. The Crusader's so dependent on cooldowns. And then I got a Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, which is the one that reduces cooldowns, which was my my jewelry that I was planning on cubing. And so things were going pretty well for that. Set took a while to get all the pieces of, and I completely forgot about the function of the Kanai's Cube to change set pieces into different set pieces. So I was like sitting on all 5 of the other pieces.
You're like, why can't I find a glove?
Yeah,
another pants. Where are my gloves?
I was missing shoes for the longest time, and then I was like, wait a second, that's one of the functions of the cube. So I went in and I wound up dumping like 200 Forgotten Souls into it before it gave me shoes for that set. So RNG can still be a bitch even on.
Oh yeah.
And then I wound up getting the Johanna's Argument flail, which doubles the attack speed of the Blessed Hammers. And so I got a cube that, and I'm doing pretty well. Don't have any ancient gear yet, but am at the point where I can easily run T6, T7.
And of course, T7 is the sweet spot, at least for bounties. I did a lot of Season 4 on the PTR, but there were so often those gigantically long queue times. So I didn't do a lot of cubing because you can't make a new game. You're not going to do more bounties. You just kind of made do with what you had.
Right.
And I've seen so many people posting stuff already. There's a bug with one of the conquests or something is when you've done 50 powers via the cube. You've extracted 50 legendary powers. And people are like posting like last week, like 3 days into the patch, like, oh, this is bugged. I've already got like 72 powers. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yep.
Is this guy like half pizza roll at this point? What are you living on?
John Yang posted earlier on Twitter he has already completed his whole season journey.
Well, that's pretty easy, though. I was going to ask you about what do you think about the season journey, but I mean, you can get that by like P250 or something.
Yeah, greater of 60 though.
Some of the higher ones are some pretty high grip.
Yeah,
yeah.
GR60 with a hardcore character is very scary to me. I've gotten to 52 with my Witch Doctor that I think is very well geared in hardcore, and I'm wondering if this set with the Crusader is going to be able to do it. If I don't get that final tab of the seasonal journey, I'm going to be pretty disappointed in myself. So that's my goal.
You got it, man.
Are you guys enjoying it so far? I mean, obviously it's sort of common. If you know how to play it, you're just getting it all anyway. But you can definitely see it's kind of a useful tutorial if someone doesn't know what they're doing. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to go. Why would I kill keywords? What are they? That kind of thing.
I like it a lot, actually. I mean, like it's you're right. It's like a good guidance for people that don't want to play, but for even like me who's played every season, rush. It kind of gives you something like incrementally to chase. It's a little more exciting than just jumping in and just grinding your brains out. I mean, obviously, you still are doing that. It just kind of gives the illusion of something else, and I like it. I think it's neat. I think achievements are a good thing for the game, and they've always been pretty cool, and they keep changing them up how they're doing them. I think this is my favorite iteration of them so far because you're getting all the achievements, you're getting all the cool rewards, and you're seeing your progress and stuff, but you're also not spamming your clan or your friends' chat windows like crazy either.
Well, that happens also, but
not
as
bad as it was in Season 2. Like, Season 2 was absurd with the amount of spam from achievements and stuff.
Yeah, Nerdwords has turned over a rock. Everyone needs to know about this in giant letters. Do you like the, I mean, it's kind of silly we know what to do already, seasonal journey, but then if you get a new page and you've already got like 4 of the boxes checked, I always feel like, ooh, I'm ahead of schedule. I'm smart.
Right.
Even if the reason you hadn't gotten it yet because you hadn't like transmogged something or something, something with absolutely no skill required, right?
Yep.
But you get the next page like, ooh, I've already got 5 out of 8 on page 4. I'm ahead of schedule. I'm awesome.
Yeah.
So how was your season journey there, MT1? You enjoying the thing?
Yeah, I really like
digital pats on the head.
Yeah, the incremental rewards are really nice for someone like me that's very goal oriented when I play. So getting the different portrait frames as you accomplish each of those goals. We already had the goals of gearing and hitting certain Paragon levels, and I guess those are more important for the quality of life in the game. But it's nice to be able to collect during the season. Previously, what you unlocked, you always got like at level 70 or like 200 achievement points. It was so easy to get, and now we have something that might actually be kind of exclusive, as long as they don't reuse all this stuff for next season as well, which I'm afraid they might.
Yeah.
Blue Dog, yes or no? Good or bad? Pro or con?
I do not use any of those pets. I think they look stupid, but if they made them like in the Asia region and you could have them pick up gold for you, I'd totally use them for just to have them pick up my gold, even though they look stupid.
What is this, Torchlight?
Well, you can pay for that on Asia, I think, like on China.
Well, or else you can be a demon hunter and play with the ferrets, but play all those marauders, demon hunters are really enjoying that. You see so many marauders, demon hunters these days. So do you like the Blue Dog Nerdwords? Do you like the pets? Do you transmog? Do you care about that stuff?
I mean, I do, but I'm also like, I'm weird about stuff. I don't know. I've always Are
all your Barbie dolls still in the original boxes, or do you take them out and play with them?
They're all in the original boxes. Yeah, I'm totally that guy. No,
but how do you dress up Dolly then?
No, I think that the transmog system was really good when it came in, and they keep iterating on it, making it better and better. But the addition of the pets and stuff, I love. I always use like at least one of it. Like I've got one of the wings on, all that stuff too, because I'm just like I'm gonna buy the StarCraft 2 Collector's Edition just to get that damn Protoss probe droid, so as a pet, like because I think that's cool. Like I don't know, I want to be able to make my wizard look like Kerrigan or some other crazy looking dude. I think that's. If you get
a Protoss pet, does it pick up minerals for you?
No, it just is I don't know.
It should pick up materials though, right? Because if the dog picks up gold, the Protoss should pick up materials. That's the extent of my StarCraft knowledge right there.
Nice.
Or Vespene gas, either or.
Man, if you could have a whole army of StarCraft creatures running with you.
I mean, the fact that you can have Kerrigan wings and the Protoss probe droid is just pretty cool. And as on a wizard, like a Taurasha wizard with all the elements and stuff swirling around, I think it'll look pretty sweet. But I'm that nerdy. I like the lore and I like the look of a character. It matters to me. So
yeah, I definitely like the appearance of the characters, but I can't get behind like the pointless stuff that floats around with you. I mean, I bought all the collector's edition stuff, but it's like. I guess maybe if it was more exclusive, I would want to earn it and then rep it. But because it's so available, I bought a collector's version versus the regular edition. It's not, that exclusive.
I understand that for sure.
I couldn't hear. I heard a muffled sound behind someone's EP that was blocking their sound. Did you hear what he just said, Nerdwords? Something about I'm too cool to use those things that all you other people are lining up to use.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, I guess it's per user. Some people care about transmog. Flux, you don't really care about transmog very much, do you?
That's been the last thing I've gotten in the seasonal journey. I kept wondering why I'm not page 4, and I finally went and looked, and it was like, oh yeah, transmog. I forgot about that. So yeah, I don't spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah. See, I always like that kind of cosmetic stuff. It gives you something else to do whenever you get burn out on grinding and stuff. You can kind of switch the way you look and stuff.
Well, you play a wizard, and they are the most beautiful class.
Well, it's important to me because I play all wizards. So if you look at my my actual my profile or whatever, all of my seasonal wizards look differently. Like their transmog I changed based on what I was playing that season. So if I was playing more a fire build one season, then I have like a fire transmog, so on and so forth. So it's kind of how I keep up with which characters which.
Is that why you unfriended MT1 so he couldn't see what your wizard looked like?
Yeah, exactly.
He was stealing on your swag, and you were like, I can't have that. You were like, YOLO, bitch.
Yeah, I just copied his transmogs. I wanted to be as cool as Nerdwords when I grew up.
And then he had to unfriend you, so now you can never know again. He has secret wizards you'll never see.
He probably has a second account filled with wizards. I'd believe that.
Well, there's not enough room in one. You've only got 15, so you got to do more.
Yep.
We're going to get into a lot of stuff about the developer chat this week and some of the things they said and some of the wrong think they exhibited. And hopefully Wyatt will enjoy his time in the retraining academy. We're going to send him off there next month until he understands why single player is in fact superior. But in the meantime, any other Season 4, new season stuff, new features? Obviously there's some new sets. You're enjoying the new Crusader set there.
Yeah.
Wizards got nothing new because no one loves Wizards anymore, right?
I think it's alternating. You get 3 characters that get something new each season. So you just got to kind of alternate your characters. I think that's their goal.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
They alternate
how's that going
characters.
for you, Nerdwords?
I don't want to talk about it right now, unless you want to hear me rant again.
I'm still playing Demon Hunters mainly, so I can't talk.
The problem that I was worried
class.
about, the problem I was worried about is most definitely coming to fruition. I'm in a.
You really liked Veer's set. You had a special feature on the podcast a few weeks ago. You came on to say how much you liked that set, and the changes were awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, the set's good. It is a good set. It's not that it's super fun to play when you get all the pieces, but the problem is right now is that I have the full Veer set, but I don't have Shantoto's yet. I don't have certain other pieces yet. So, yeah, I can use the Veer set, but it vastly gimps me. So you're stuck between, okay, do I wear the Veer set, roll pieces, kind of build towards that set and just, deal with the power level until you get there? Or do I roll a different set that gives you vastly more power and then completely switch all of your gear once you get every single piece? It's like you kind of find yourself second-guessing every move you make, which, isn't a problem, and it's still fun. It's just like I wish that the Archon set wasn't so dependent upon other pieces to be a viable set, because then my power level would be a little bit better.
So it's kind of funny now. There's so many. Every class has like 3 good sets now. I remember like season 1, there was one set you wanted, everything else sucked, and so you would just hunt, and now there's like you end up on the PTR at least. I did 2 season 4s all the way, like Paragon 200 or higher. And you would always be at like 4-4-5, or 5-5-4 of the 3 sets. It's like I just need anything.
Yep.
And they were always different. Like you didn't just need boots in every set, so you could just gamble boots. It was like there's one different thing in every set, and whichever one you want, you can't find first. But isn't that the whole point of the game, right? The whole thing is it's hard to find some of the items, and then once you find them, you're awesome.
Right. No, and
I'm pretty sure that is cause and effect of Diablo 3, right?
Right. No, and that's definitely the way it works. But for instance, a barbarian building a Wrath of the Waste set. Like, he doesn't have to switch, oh, wait, well, I've got my full Wrath of the Waste set, but I don't have these alternative, legendaries. So until I get those, I'm going to run this severely gimped Immortal King set because it's doing more damage right now. Like, the Veer set is one of those sets that completely blows until you have every moving part and piece to it, unless you're getting carried through T8 like I am right now. So I don't know.
So what are you complaining about then?
Yeah, exactly. It's still a first world problem, but I don't know, like last season, when you were building sets, you could build the Taurasa set or the Delsair set and be fine, and then you were still building towards your end game, so you weren't, having to double up on the materials you were using and, rolling and all that stuff. But with this, it's like you have a choice to make. Like, you gimp yourself and focus on one set, or you kind of spread yourself thin, and then later on have to spend more materials and more money and more time to grind out, the pieces you need.
So how does your Crusader working there, MT1?
So
did you get the set you wanted right at the start, or are you a big whiner like Nerdworld?
I got a lot of the Icon pieces, which is, of course, one of the sets that Blizzard's going to be refreshing because it's, from launch of Crusaders.
Yeah.
Still the same thing. So it was really easy for me when I had like 4 or 5 pieces of that I was using. Every time I would get a lights piece, I would just throw it on and get rid of the Icons piece because it was functionally very minimal change to lose whatever bonus from that I had. I got some Roland's pieces, but those came around the same times as the light pieces, so it wasn't like I had to build one set and then switch to another.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Imagine that, Nerdwords. Once again, Blizzard hates wizards, right?
No, they don't. It's just they're gonna address it. They're going after old sets next patch, so it might be. Yeah, I think they're addressing Firebirds is what they said, which will be interesting. I'll see how they change that. So.
And they said damn near every set, every 6-piece set, they're trying to make it up to the same level. That was when in the dev chat this week, John Yang mentioned that, and then some other stuff Wyatt mentioned. Maybe trying to make so there's some options for 2- and 4-piece sets that are better, better than now at least. So I guess we'll get into that issue. What we've had this come up every now and then about the whole 6-piece set thing, and you mentioned that was certainly the point of your Veers rant a couple podcasts ago, Nerdwords.
Yeah.
That now we have every set. All the best builds in the game require a 6-piece set, and most of those you need 2 or 3 legendary items with it to make it really work the way it's supposed to.
Right.
And if you saw, even like when John was mentioning in the chat about they're making the melee Demon Hunter set, the Shadow set. And there's a bracers also that makes Phantom Knives better, and there's a belt that there were 2 other items he mentioned just in this thing that you basically had to have. So you're looking at essentially an 8 or 9-piece set once you get these other items in.
Right.
And are you guys cool with this? Obviously you can wear a variety of legendary stuff and just a couple of 2 pieces from some set here or there, but I don't think there's any build in the world that's within like 10 greater rifts of what you could do in a proper 6-piece set, right?
Right.
So, there are other options. You'll just suck if you use them. So,
Right.
Do you guys like this system? I mean, do you wish we had just mismatches of all kinds of different rune words and legendaries and stuff?
I really like the idea of having a ton of options, just numerous options for us, and let us do whatever we want with our characters. But I don't think it's going to work.
Well, you do. You'll just suck.
Right, exactly. It doesn't really work for end game play.
Right.
So I think that what they're trying to do, although it's far from perfect, is give us 3 or 4 options, and then you can kind of modify around that core option, that core set. And I'm okay with that. I wish that all the sets were more like what, even the Immortal King set right now. It's just a damage increase, Like, give us something that just does a damage increase and a survivability increase, and let us pick the skills we want to use. But because of the fact that the skills are so drastically different in their effectiveness, I don't think that Blizzard wants to balance every single skill. So they're picking specific ones to make the most powerful, and then you can pick between the 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 different builds. And it's better than the one that we had previously. I mean, there was a point where we really had one for every single class that was drastically above everything else. So I think we should try to be happy about this, although I know it's difficult.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem. Like, I mean, obviously, when you get to the high end, it's going to bottleneck anyways, and there's going to be, very few choices if you're trying to compete with, number 1 on the leaderboard. But the problem that I have with the set isn't that. The problem is the fact that, like, for, specifically the new Wizard set, it just requires so many pieces to be, like, even usable. I mean, like, you can be in Archon mode, but your damage doesn't come from Archon mode. It comes from the Shantoto set. So if you don't have Shantoto set, but you have the Archon set, you're doing no damage, waiting on a cooldown that doesn't matter. But if you run a different set altogether, then you can't use those moving parts and pieces to kind of like get up there anyway. So it's just really like it makes your gear progression awkward. Now again, it's again crying over spilled milk because it's still a really cool set and it'll be really cool once you get up to the top end. It's just more complicated than it should be and more complicated than most other class sets and their season journeys. It's vastly different. You don't see that with a Barb or with a Crusader even. It's because you have, in a con set, like a cons is not a great end game set, obviously, and they're going to work on that. But if you find a cons, it's something that can kind of add on to another set and be okay. Veers doesn't work that way because it completely resets your skill tree. You have no control over your skills. It's set to a set 3 different skills. So it's like, no matter what you do, you're kind of pigeonholed into this one thing, but you're pigeonholed into it from the time you start collecting the set rather than end game.
So you're a big fan of Veer's set, is the message I'm getting the last couple podcasts.
Yeah, most definitely.
It seems to be all roads lead to Veer's set when it comes to nerd words. And maybe someday every other set in the game can be that good too, if we're lucky.
What do you think about what do you think about the Melee Demon Hunter set? I thought that sounded pretty cool. But it also sounds like it's going to have the same problem the Veer set possibly, that it's going to be so many moving parts that you won't really be able to assemble it until you have every single piece.
It's funny because you play quite a bit at melee range using Natalia's set.
Right.
I mean, you don't. I mean, at the highest level, you have to use, Zay's gem and, the other things that keep the long distance to get the most damage with the knockback on the, the fire effect of everything else. But at lower levels, you can do you can do T10 just spinning through the middle of everything. You get really high defensive, if you're using Taegooks especially, you get that big defensive buff.
Yeah.
And so I've actually used a fair amount on T10 using those shoulders that give you the Phantom Knives, the effect of it when you get hit every now and then, the proc.
Right.
Just because there aren't any other good shoulders. Everyone uses the ones out of the Act 1 cache, but that's, like 5% chance of resurrection. That's not doing any good for you, really. So, I mean, I actually play at close range a lot, but of course that's doing it with, when you have Rain of Vengeance hitting everything on the screen for gigantic damage nonstop. So it's interesting to think about. You don't get any benefit by being close to stuff. You just are close because you're going through them because they don't hit you and you're in a hurry to finish the bounty. So it's sort of an incidental thing. But it is weird to think about that, even though ultimately Demon Hunters have so much lower toughness than almost every other class in the game right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be, if you're over like 20 million toughness, you have a lot of toughness with a Demon Hunter. And you can get away with a lot more now. Of course, if you have Unity in your, your Unity in your cube, if nothing else, and there's those new bracers that give you a 30% debuff of damage. But I think he said one of the new items with the, the new Melee Demon Hunter set was bracers, so I guess that will be out. But
right.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be fun to play with a little. I'm not like planning on that being my main build the next PTR, though I'm sure I'll try it out. I am kind of wondering what it's going to be like trying to find 4 different 6-piece sets for the Demon Hunter next time. I guess every class will have the same problem once the other sets get upgraded, right? But That was the other thing with the whole thing with the sets. Like, where do you put them all in your stash? With all that giant stash space we have,
Right. Yeah.
You've got now 3 spare sets for every class. What happens if you're playing 3 classes? That's like 4 of your stash tabs are just for sets, right?
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I don't know. I think that it sounds exciting to me as somebody who doesn't play Demon Hunter, because in Diablo 2, I actually, aside from Sorceress, also played Javazon. So I kind of hope it feels a little like that. And I like the idea of them kind of making Impale, or trying to make Impale useful. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I was just curious how you felt about it.
I guess one thing I miss, it'd be kind of funny if it did have some Javazon effects. I mean, they say Impale gets a huge damage buff, and it does a little bit, but one of the things with Javazon is positioning was really important. You know, you wanted to get all the monsters clustered together at one side of the screen, and if there was one enemy near you, you wanted to throw through him, because then it would send out shocks to everything else within, whatever yard radius of that target.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And really nothing in D3, almost everything is either, maybe a little bit like with multi-shot or something like that. You want things all in the same area. But you really never do herding in Diablo 3. You don't, even in the old days of D2, like with Blizzard.
The life of a wizard is herding, so that's kind of...
Right.
No one plays Wizards, though, dude, so it's okay.
On the highest difficulties, I think it's more of that than there is down at T10.
Yeah, you do a lot of... you'll see guys doing the really high-level rifts, and they'll do a lot of positioning. Or certainly, like, the slow ball thing, the 4-player highest griff stuff last patch. It was all about Witch Doctor locking down and Crusader dragging stuff into position.
Yeah.
And then, the slow ball, not Natalia, the other set, UE set, with just sending, a million super slow motion lightning bolts through them.
Right.
But I mean, I don't get the sense of that much of normal play. I mean, everything in D2 is about positioning with a lot of characters. Unless you're doing a Nova Wizard or something.
Right.
But
I think they've tried to simplify the game.
Even like Whirlwind or something was all about pushing stuff around, and I guess we have some of that in D3. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not dying to play the set, but I'll certainly try it out.
I will say, in the time it took me to complain about all that stuff, I just got my Shantoto's wand drop, so now I'm doing damage as an Archon. It's nice.
Well, now you're all done.
Yep,
man, I wish I had people carrying me. It's hard to play this.
Well, I'm not. I'm doing the carrying now. That's the thing. We're on T8. I was getting carried. I get 1 wand. It's not even an ancient. It's not even like good at rolls. But the bonus from that wand has now made it to where I'm pretty much carrying this game now.
That's nice.
Yeah, the other benefit of it is softcore.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little easier to play half-assedly while podcasting
guys.
in T8 in softcore, yeah.
So you were talking about targeting with skills, and I guess it all comes back to the conspiracy theories of console design. I mean, the game is designed to be able to be picked up by anyone and be played by anyone, and there's pros and cons to that. But one of the cons, I think, is that it's a lot less thought-intensive than it should be. It's push the same attack button over and over again, or hold it down, and run around. I mean, that's really what the game is. And it's fun. I have a blast playing it. But I really wish that it required more thought. And even in hardcore, the majority of the time you're running around holding down that same attack button. Maybe once in a while pushing a buff button.
Is he wrong, Nerdwords?
Not necessarily. But I don't know. I'm too stoked on Shantoto's right now. Way too stoked.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I think that if they added some more of those requirements in to actually be focused on the way you're playing, and then rewarded you for doing it, it could be good. But I don't think they will, because they'll want the most efficient way to be accessible. I mean, They want anyone to be able to play.
I could see that.
So
the whole designing for Bastiak's mom thing is dragging us down again.
Yeah, but at least she's having a great time. She's like Paragon 43,000 or something now. She's really the one leading the leaderboards.
With any luck, yeah. So, any other thoughts on set items? I mean, I guess we're all kind of just resigned. This is how the game is now. This is now our life. Everything is about getting a 6-piece set and 2 or 3 other supporting items, and then that means you have like 3 items in your entire gear that are... And then, of course, you got focus and restraint, so you have like 2 items left.
Right.
Like, you can pick like whatever weapon you want, unless you're in a build that requires a certain weapon. But you pretty much can do whatever you want with your belt.
That's exactly
you're
right.
A barbarian
like you can,
or a wizard.
You have some belt options.
Wait, you have no belt options as a wizard?
Yeah, unless you're a barber or a wizard and you have a set belt. But other than that, or if you're a demon hunter, you have to have the belt that makes Natalia's set work.
Yeah, but again, it depends on what level you're playing on. Because if you're playing against number 1 in the world, you're probably going to use one of 2 belts.
Right.
One of two.
If you're trying to compete at that highest level, it's all going to bottleneck. Even if they did give you
the very highest level, it's always going to be a cookie cutter thing.
Right.
But I mean, at least you could do a fair variety of, T10 is not that high. You can do kind of different stuff, and you obviously want your speed build and zoom around and stuff.
Yeah, I think Kanai's Cube allowed us to have a little bit more freedom, even though we're required to play with sets. And
and it definitely adds to the customization. I mean, like if you think about it, obviously at the T10 level, at the high end level, it's going to bottleneck. But at the T1 to T7 level, it allows for a lot of different customization, a lot of differences in characters. I've noticed more so than I thought even. So it is and it's fantastic. I mean, it just adds a whole different element to the game to kind of worry about and try to upgrade. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And now that I've got my piece, I'm good.
Yeah, unless you're wearing half a Veer set, in which case you hate it. Otherwise, you love it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad for a while, but I'm there. It only took me 138 Paragons, and I'm able to use the actual Archon set.
So speaking of carrying people through games, the whole multiplayer versus single-player thing, that's a big issue for a while, and that was the question in the chat. And Wyatt did this long soliloquy in his response about... They actually, the first sentence of it, he's like, I think we all agree multiplayer should be better, but the question is how much better. I'm like, actually I don't agree with that. I'm like, I want to challenge your basic premise. But what he essentially said is that you get a lot of bonuses. You don't get that big a bonus. The strength in numbers bonus is only 30% more EXP if you have 4 people in the game.
Yeah.
But, the big bonuses are just, you get more, you get more EXP total, obviously, if everyone knows how to play a little bit, unless you're carrying nerd words and half of your set. Otherwise, everyone in theory... Monsters gain what? 75% hit points for each additional person?
50%.
God, it's only 50.
Yeah, it's joke levels. I mean, it's very little difference between me playing solo or me having 3 people stand in the door of the rift and running through. I mean, that to me is an issue.
Except in terms of experience. There's a huge difference in terms of experience.
Well, right. There's a huge benefit to it. But even if none of the other players are attacking, it's still only slowing me down a little bit. And I think that's really where the issue comes in. If you want to give great benefits for playing multiplayer, you can't do it on top of not having any of the consequences. People hated that scaling damage. I don't know if scaling damage is required, where the monsters do more. But right now, there's no reason to play solo, except if you really just enjoy it more.
Or don't have any friends.
I agree with Wyatt's comment about multiplayer should be better, but I think multiplayer should be better when everyone's playing together and you're efficient because you're playing together. I don't know if it should be better just because there are 4 people in the room. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, but I think that's certainly hard to argue. If you're saying a well-coordinated team, like you watch those Rift videos, people doing GR68 or something in previous seasons, and everybody has to be exactly right, doing things perfectly, or else they don't make it.
Right.
I don't think anybody can say, well, they should get less experience than I get solo, because obviously it's really hard to do. But like you're just saying, why should you be guaranteed more experience with your friend standing in town, or 2 friends just standing at the start of the rift while you're playing, than someone else does playing really well solo? It just seems like they're forcing people to play multiplayer. And something you got into a couple of podcasts ago, Nerdword, talking about how if you want to make a run at the ladder, you really have to be like Paragon 1000.
Right.
Later
and you have to have a 4-man group to be able to run it, because there's no way...
And how do you get to Paragon 1000? You play in multiplayer games. So.
Or you bot, or both. But either way, the biggest problem that I see with that is that it's that I don't think it should be incentivized to play with people, because everyone... I guess not everyone feels that way, but it should make more sense for you to group up. It shouldn't hurt you, right? It shouldn't hurt the experience to join up with people, so therefore it should help you. I don't think it should be even either, because then what would be the incentive, obviously. So it's a difficult thing when you have the fact that you can jump into a party and then jump into solo. I don't know how they could really fix that, short of making it, the way it was, where it was punishing to be solo, or to be in a group.
I think they just mess with numbers a little bit. Change some of the benefits a little bit, because right now, the guy who is the number 1 Paragon in the world, he did that interview, I guess it was a little bit over a month ago now, and said you get virtually twice the benefit by playing in multiplayer versus single player. The guy did all the math calculations required to figure that out. And I believe it from experiencing both myself. But the problem is that compounds on top of it. If we're just talking about XP, okay, that's all well and good. But you're gearing much faster, so that means you're able to get even more XP from that. Your Paragon, every time you're getting more efficient because you're higher level. It just continues to stack and stack and stack. And I don't think we need two different ecosystems where there's a single-player-only ecosystem for competition and a multiplayer-only one. But I do think they need to modify some of those numbers. Maybe just get rid of that 30% bonus and see what happens. If for one season solo play becomes better than multiplayer, then they can always change it back the next time. Aren't seasons supposed to be kind of somewhat of a testing ground? I mean, we have the PTR, but
they were. I don't think they are now. They were at first iteration, but now they've kind of reached a point to where I think that they're actually competitive.
Yeah, but I mean, if it would still be a fair competition if everyone was playing by the same rules, and they don't ever have to roll that into the main game. Like, I mean, they roll our results, but they don't have to make it so that they don't get the benefit in the main game. If someone really likes playing multiplayer rather than solo play, they could just play in the main game and then not compete that season if they're so...
It's, at the same time, as somebody who doesn't bot and who mostly, like, at the beginning of the season play a lot with groups and then later in the season mostly solo, like, I finished at, like, I think Paragon 607, 608, and I finished in the top 100 last season, even with people. You know, you're not going to hit the top, but you can still compete reasonably well if you're putting in time into the game. I don't think the problem is group play versus solo play. I think the problem is bot play against all other play, because the botting is ridiculous, and that's what's really causing the problem. I mean, if a guy sits at his computer for 48 straight hours in his Paragon 700, I'm okay with that. Like, I think that needs to, like, he put in that amount of time, that ridiculous amount of commitment to the game, he should get some exponential rewards for it. And if he was solo play, it's not like he would be Paragon 250. He'd still be Paragon 550 or 600. So it's a problem, but I think it's of all the problems, it's not a bad problem to have. I think they need to focus on botting and worry about the group play experience a little bit later once they tune that down a little bit.
But my issue is that I think they scale rewards based on multiplayer.
But see, I wouldn't play in a game with people if I didn't get the scaled rewards. Like, if I didn't get more drops, I wouldn't do it.
I'm not just talking about the fact that it's more rewarding. I mean, I think they design the play experience around multiplayer, meaning that you're at a disadvantage by playing solo. So you get online, you play solo, you run, let's say you're just reaching T1 in a season, you run 3 or 4 rifts without a single legendary, you pop into multiplayer, and you're getting a legendary virtually every rift. Well, you know, that's what it's supposed to be in T1, like a legendary rift. But you can actually feel a big difference even in those rewards right at the beginning of the season. And so if you're playing all the time like that, you get your rewards much more slowly. And they've only really addressed the XP question. They're not even thinking about the item question. And so that really only affects the people who are the very top players. I mean, you said top 100, right? I didn't finish in the top 100 because, like, I stopped playing partway through the season, but also I wasn't pushing myself. So I think they really need to look at more than just the end game, and think about some of the people who are only going to play the season for a while and make it feel good to play, because it's really demotivating when you feel like playing solo is hurting, like you're cheating yourself out of the time you're playing by playing solo.
Yeah, I can understand that. As somebody who plays a lot solo late in season and competes, I've had that thought creep into my mind, but it never really bothers me, I guess, because it's almost like vindication, because I still am able to compete with those people. It doesn't bother me as bad, but I don't know. I think the XP problem is really all the problems kind of multiply off each other.
Right.
So. And the gear problem, if they were worried about gear being a problem, then the cube wouldn't exist, because that makes gear so much easier. I mean, like, I've gotten so much gear already, and the ability to roll one set piece into another set piece, or to upgrade a rare item into another legendary item. If they were worried about gear, that shit wouldn't exist. So I think that they're okay with us getting the gear. I think that what they've got to do now is worry about the exploits, worry about the problems that we're having with some of the people at the high end that are just abusing the XP they get by not playing yet playing.
Right. I definitely agree with the banning of the bots. They need to get on that and do it more regularly.
This shit's fucking ridiculous. Like, it's literally like this. The season came and ended, right? And they didn't do shit about it. And
we all assumed there'd be a wipe of all those people at the end of the season, right?
At least fucking say out loud, "Hey, this is okay," so that
oh man, if they did that.
Well, shit, they got to do something, because for those of us that do play all the time, I mean, it doesn't take much to download a bot, but, like, that's so shitty, like, the fact that you would have to do that. But if it's okay and you're not going to get banned for it, then fucking say it so I can jump in too. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be able to keep up with these people that are ridiculous, like you've got to have something there, and they're not saying anything. They did a wave of bans after was it first season or was it the second season where they banned everybody?
Yeah, I think it was season 2 that they had that big ban wave.
I was expecting that this time, and it didn't happen.
Here's what I think their plan is. I think they do their ban waves based on their, on the effects it's going to have for sales. So I know I said last time that I expected a Gamescom announcement of an expansion, but now I really expect a BlizzCon announcement. And I think that maybe they're going to wait until everyone's realizing, this game still has multiple years left. I'm going to buy another account even though I get banned. Because they don't want to lose a huge number of players, 6 months before they announce the expansion, and then have them never come back. They want them to immediately buy another license, and then they don't really care whether they're botting or not. That doesn't really affect Blizzard very much.
Yeah,
it's a little bit cynical. Even for me, it's a little bit cynical.
Flux, I don't think anything can be cynical to you. Like,
well, my cynicism about the whole multiplayer versus single player thing is that you remember back, right before launch, basically, it was when they announced, no modding, online-only requirements, and of a couple of other, real money auction house, a number of things that were very unpopular at the time, in theory. And the way they initially, a couple of times, like I think it was at Gamescom, they first announced some of these features, the online-only stuff. A couple of the early interviews, they were like, well, obviously it's going to help with piracy also.
Right.
And then ever since, they have never once admitted in any way, shape, or form that having an online-only requirement for the game is about piracy, to even the slightest extent.
Yeah.
Even the little the reddish gleam in Bobby's eye, they will not admit to that. And so they always say, "Oh, multiplayer is a much better experience. It's much more fun with your friends. You should play it online together." They always say online experience is better and multiplayer is better, and it just seems like maybe this is sort of a connection to that. Like if they said, well, actually, it is kind of bad that we're overdoing multiplayer. Single player should be more effective. That would be like, well, why can't we play offline single player then?
Right.
Yeah.
Like they can never admit there's anything better in the game, but that might be better, a different choice than multiplayer. And therefore, it's okay that the game is online only because obviously you should be playing multiplayer. Why would we enable anything else? Who cares?
Yeah, I think that's.
So that's my cynical angle on it. If there's anything, I think maybe that has some relation.
No, I mean
to it
for sure. The fact that they made the game online only. I mean, if you've played the console version, you know what it's like when you've got the offline, when you've got those people that are coming in that are able to mod and stuff.
Yeah.
It really messes with everything. And I'm okay with it being online only, and it makes sense that because the game is online only to incentivize playing with people online. But that said, the problem again, I really don't think is. I think that problem is being shined such a light on because of the experience ridiculousness. Like, it's really, like, the number one in the world, right? It is just glossed over the fact that he openly admits to using bots. Like, yeah, he's the number one Paragon in the world, but he's a fucking cheater. Like, for real. Like,
there's people with 19 hours played a day. It's like, what? That doesn't make sense.
That's not even fucking possible. Like, it's just
unless you're sharing accounts, which is also illegal.
Right. Either they ban people, either they say it's okay, or they come out and they just yell at people for not doing it. But either way, they need to address this issue head on and figure out what the hell they're going to do about it.
And that did come up in the chat, and like Nevelistis responded, I think, or one of the CMs, and it's like, we take active measures against this. We don't like to ever publicize when we do it. We had this whole debate on the podcast like 6 months ago, the whole naming and shaming thing. And I was like, when they do a bunch of bans or a bunch of cheaters, they should just post a list of everyone who does it.
I loved that idea. And wasn't
and some other podcast guests are like, Katniss, I think, was the main one. And he was like, oh, no, they should never name them. That would be wrong. I'm like, well, that's the whole principle of an open system of justice. Mm. You list people. There was some kind of blood shards cheat at that point. I don't remember what it was exactly.
Where they were the greater rift multiplier on the blood shards. Right.
And there are people who had like 10,000 blood shards in a day, that kind of thing. Yep. And it was just, they were, it was like a new season. You could see how many blood shards they'd already found, when you look at their account.
Yeah, and then
there are people who had like 37,000 blood shards, and everyone else had like 2,000.
So that wasn't an issue of banning. I think that was a rollback on the account, and because it was, an exploit that was in the game.
Were banned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they banned the most extreme people who were like streaming it and saying how to do it.
People that showed other people how to do it and exploited it more than other people.
Here's the issue with the naming and shaming thing. It's the fact that there are people who did it who legitimately didn't understand. Not that I'm making an excuse, nor did I do it, but there are people who watch those videos of whatever douchebag streamers saying, hey, do this, you get amazing amounts of blood shards, and then they do it, and then from then on their account says cheater or whatever on it. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. However, in the case of bans, they totally should say these accounts were banned, especially when it's people who were popularizing the exploits.
Yep.
And they don't. They always have this thing where we don't discuss our punishment externally, and we don't list people who have been caught cheating. And I think it was Katniss again. He's like, well, everyone knows. I mean, you saw who vanished off the top of the leaderboards. A lot of people don't look at leaderboards. A lot of fans, especially casual players, never look at leaderboards.
Right.
And okay, great. If you're number 3 in the world on the monk ladder or something, and you get popped, maybe somebody notices. If you're number 742, no one's gonna know. I mean, I remember we were doing all these jokes on the podcast at that point where people, were ranked, and someone, guys were going from 800 to 640 just overnight
right.
because 160 people got deleted. At least got their accounts deleted, if not actually banned, or they got rolled back or whatever.
Right.
And it's well, that's great if it's you, but you don't know who that is. But anyway, naming and shaming is another topic, and obviously Blizzard's policies that we're not going to do it. And you can certainly conspiracy theory about that. It's okay, people they like don't get punished, and people they don't know or care about do get punished, and that's why they don't want to name it, so there would actually be accountability for this.
Well, you look at the way that people who promote the product are treated, and there are people who are crazy enough to believe they're like streamer buffs or whatever. I don't think any of that stuff's going on. But of course, if you're promoting our product, and I'm Blizzard, and you're promoting my product, I'm not going to punish you as harshly as someone who I have no relationship with. If it's someone who's talking trash about Diablo, then maybe they would punish them. But they want these streamers playing the game.
That would explain why I'm on my 17th account at this point, right?
Well, the thing that freaks me out is you've been doing this forever. I mean, that's not true, but I've listened to this podcast.
It certainly seems that way to me.
And yet they openly admit, some of the developers, that they listen to the podcast, but they never come on or support this podcast. And although it
well, they're busy going on streamers who are going to switch to another game in 3 weeks as soon as something else is more popular.
Exactly right. Because they don't have to sell themselves here. This whole PR thing they're going on right now, they're doing all this 2.3 build-up stuff. It's really related to the expansion, I think. They're about to announce an expansion. They want to get everyone as interested in the game as possible. And they know they don't have to sell themselves here, because anyone that's on a Diablo website is probably going to be buying the expansion pack.
Yeah, pretty safe bet there. Yeah. Although we used to get a lot of people who'd just be haters in the comments, like when D3 Vanilla was so crappy for so long.
That was justified.
People who hung around solely to say how much this game sucks and how you should be playing Path of Exile instead, that kind of thing.
That's how the official forums were for a long time, too. Just tons of people posting links to Path of Exile, like, this is what Diablo 3 should have been. I think we're making progress, though. I think the developers are really trying to hear the community and trying to make the best game that they can. We just might not always agree with their decisions.
Might, you say.
Yeah.
Just might. Do you always agree with their decisions, Nerdwords?
I feel like no, but who knows? I don't know. The game's in a really good spot right now. I mean, all the changes they've made in the new patch is great. It's just super strange to me that they didn't address that issue.
Right.
It's really weird, and it's unlike them as well, because they normally do.
Well, if they did it, they would address it secretly and never publicize it. So.
Well, but they still post that it happened. They just don't post who it is.
They'll say 30,000 people got banned or whatever.
It. Yeah.
Well, apparently they're okay with it then.
I really think
much
it's
like
just
they're
timing.
okay with multiplayer being vastly more rewarding than single player.
Yeah, they are definitely okay with
the
that.
only way you can make up for that is to bot single player. So obviously that's their workaround.
I think there are people botting multiplayer at this point. They have their freaking 4 accounts, split screen.
You can definitely multi-box.
And then have bots running it constantly. And that people who play regularly are supposed to compete with that? How's that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, play more, noob.
Playing in a 4-player group won't fix that.
Right.
Well, certainly the first weekend of the season, it wasn't botting. It was people who'd just been playing 14 hours a day with 4 people in their game.
Yeah.
But, long term, you can certainly make up for stuff with...
and again, I think that's good. I think that if you've got 3 people in your group and you run for, over 40 hours straight and you're at that high of a level, I applaud you. I feel like you deserve the hell out of that. That's a lot of dedication to put in the game and a lot of work to put in. It's the other end of it that sucks, so...
It's the other end being the one where you're not number 14 in the world on Wizards because someone else has been cheating.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
He was.
Well sums it
that
up.
was a wizard, by the way. Not trying to.
19 hours, that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So another thing that came up in the sort of an off topic slightly, but Torment difficulty. You've been talking about if you're running T7 or T8 or T10. Are you guys happy with the scaling? We had a news post where there was a bunch of people that put together graphs and charts kind of showing the progression lines. And the progression line for like experience gain and for gold find and for item find and stuff didn't really, it was kind of, a slow, steady rise, all the way to T10. And then the other bar on the chart was for monster hit points. And at like T7 it starts to go up pretty fast, and at T10 it's like Mount Himalayas, It's just suddenly massive increase in. So you're not taking that much. The monster damage they deal, it doesn't get that much harder to survive on T10 if you go
longer to kill them.
But stuff takes so much longer to kill, and of course if you gear up far enough, that doesn't matter anymore. But do you guys feel like T10 is a fair high end? Do you like how the gameplay? Do you think it should be more dangerous to survive on?
I've never been a huge proponent of difficulty levels the way that they've been implemented here. I've always thought gearing should be where it's at, but they've taken all the thought out of gearing when they removed Magic Find and made XP a joke, except for now they've put it back in Greater Rifts. But I mean, that's really what an RPG should be. Pick how you want to gear your character. I think that if they were going to have a difficulty system, it should be more streamlined than this. This is ridiculous, whether there are 14 different difficulties. That's just kind of silly. But I see what they're trying to do with the difficulty in that most people are going to play where they're efficient at, and they're going to be trying to be able to kill elites in 5 to 10 seconds or whatever and move on, right? They don't want to be standing there fighting them forever. And so in that way, you can move up when you have your gear at a certain level and get more rewards for a very slight increase in the time it takes, but you're still not going to play in an area you're not efficient. So I'm okay with it. The T7 jump was a pretty big reward, especially with bounty caches giving you an extra supply each time, an extra bounty-specific material each time. I don't know if it's really worth doing T10 versus T7, though, for one more material. I mean, eventually we'll get to the power level where T10 and T7 will feel virtually the same.
Yeah, that's how it was on the PTR. I mean, the real big buff, the big improvement is Infernal Machines.
Yeah.
You get so many more organs from Ubers, and you get a lot more machines in the first place. So how are you on the whole T10 thing, Nerdbirds? Have you gotten that far yet, or are you still being carried?
I mean, I'm not being carried now. I'm in T8, and I'm handling that real well, but I haven't had enough experience at the top end to be able to really tell you yet. I can say that if it is not your goal to end up in T10, then yeah, I feel like it's not working properly. But at the same time, I mean, if you don't, I mean, it used to feel like you had to be in MP10, right? Or you had to be in Torment 6. If it doesn't feel that way, then I don't see a problem with it. It just kind of depends on how you feel once you get up there. Like right now, I'm on T8, and I feel like a weak bitch. But I'm doing what I got to do. But it's, I feel like if I was by myself and not in a group right now, I'd drop it down to T5 or 6. So, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. If if you've got to be at that top end, then yeah, it might be irritating. But for me, whatever I'm clearing fastest is good enough for me until I get there, because I know that I'll eventually get there. So.
We were talking about there should be higher levels of Torment. I was a big advocate of that like a year ago. I mean, we've been debating this forever and saying they should go to like T12 or T15 or something. And of course, they kind of did because the greater rifts increase. It increases more. T7 is a bigger jump. T7 to T8 is a bigger jump than T4 to T5. Proportionally and everything else. So it actually is kind of higher. And T10 is like what would it be like T13 if they hadn't made them jump up more quickly than they do.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a bigger jump. Do you think it should be higher? Do you think it's high enough? I mean, you see people in really good gear who are doing GR60 solo. I mean, GR60 is like T15, so should there be more, you think, than T10, or is it...
God, no. I didn't think they needed to go to T10.
With T10.
They should have just stretched it out. I still don't think they should have done T10. I was never a proponent for that. If anything, I feel like they should have made T6 be T10, if that makes sense. Like, stretch T6 to be Greater Rift.
Yeah, but then Wyatt Chang's grandma wouldn't have known the difference when she first got on.
She'd pop in with her hardcore character and die instantly.
And that was their stated excuse. Like, they don't want people to feel weaker than they used to be.
And when she pops in, does she know exactly what to do with Kanai's Cube, where to find it, how to get it, how to use it, and then also the legendary gems and how to level them and where to level them, and also the Infernal Machine on where to cast it? And fuck that. It's bullshit at this point. Like, that cannot be a valid excuse, and I don't believe it is.
Yeah, I agree. It really should have been. I mean, when they first were putting out the expansion pack, there was one Torment level. It was, it went up to Torment, and Torment was the highest level. And then they realized we're going to scale it even more because the end game needs to be more and more rewarding. Okay, that's fine. I guess, but I would greatly prefer a limited amount of difficulties and then give gearing options. What do I actually want to do instead of just going, oh, I need crit chance, crit damage, strength, I need some vitality, or if I'm on softcore, I need no vitality.
Whatever. Whatever.
You know, like, I want some decision-making in my gearing, and it's not there. I mean, like, I guess on your shoulder piece, you might decide between resource cost reduction, or if you got the right skill damage on there, or cooldown reduction. That's not enough decision for me. Like, I think that they've simplified it too much, and the reason they simplified it so much is because it's all about just playing on as high of a difficulty as you can.
See, I don't think necessarily the same thing. I do think that they didn't need to revisit, and add those torments. But I'm not necessarily bitching either, because the higher drop rates at the higher end and the getting more materials and stuff isn't a bad thing, I don't think. But with them adding the drop-down menu, which, by the way, is like, God, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah, the greater is
Jesus Christ, it makes my life so much easier. Especially for someone who can just jump in for a couple hours a night here and there. It's nice because I can not spend that time doing trials. But I don't know. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think that necessarily it's a godsend either. I haven't had enough experience with it to say one way or the other. I just don't think it was a necessary change. I don't think it was something they had to do for this patch to have been successful. I feel like it would have been good anyway.
I think the reason they did it this patch and not before is because of Kanai's Cube. I mean, Kanai's
I think so too.
Made drastic changes to the amount of damage people can put out, and also, if you choose to, your survivability. You can have a huge jump in that and still have all the damage you want. Like before, you kind of had to pick on your jewelry, and now you really have the option to kind of go both ways. Get that 50% damage reduction in solo. There's your solo play advantage, Unity.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Is it enough? No.
And I feel like you're on the right track there. I don't think it's necessarily like. I think it was exactly that. It was a reaction to Kanai's Cube. That maybe they were or they weren't going to do it. But I feel like with Kanai's Cube going in, they were like, okay, with us adding this in, the power level going up, we're going to have to add this to make people feel like that there's more progression. And I understand that.
I just enjoy the irony of the best buff for single player being called Unity.
Yeah, right.
Like, what if the best buff in multiplayer game was called solo or solitaire?
Here's the thing, though. Like, remember when that first came out and people were like, "This is clearly like an exploit to be running that," and then the devs came up and they said, "No, working as intended." Who actually believes that that's working as intended? That was the hugest toughness increase you could possibly get in the game. It's just something they overlooked, and then when people started using it, then they were like, oh, we don't want to act like we messed up. Like, there's no way they actually intended people to be able to reduce all their damage by 50% at that point in the game when gearing was so challenging to do. Now it's a lot easier with, like, endgame sets having huge damage reduction. But back then, a piece of jewelry did not do anywhere near that much for you.
They did fix the problem, though, because, maybe in hardcore it's like mandatory still, but it is definitely not in softcore anymore. You actually do have options at the ring level, and I think that's cool. Of course, the option is whether you use focus and restraint or you don't, but still, it's
at the highest greater rifts, wouldn't you still want that Unity in your Kanai's Cube? I feel like most people are running it just because that's a huge difference in damage.
Not softcore. I can tell you, softcore wizards are running Obzod.
Okay.
And I know a couple different classes are too. So, but I don't know hardcore.
That is a powerful ring.
It is, especially when you're trying to reset the cooldown of Archon. Oh yeah, dude,
it rolls so terrible.
It rolls awful. It's so bad. I don't know why they have that ring in the game still rolling like that. It's so bad. I got one earlier and I tried to use it for a minute. I was like, God, this is atrocious.
And then you just had to put it in your Kanai's Cube, right?
Yep, I immediately did.
That's what I did right when I got mine. I was like, going back to town, not even finishing the rift. I'm putting it in the Kanai's Cube.
I switched out my litany of the Undaunted. Like, that's how bad it was. It was like, I'll take a ring that has Vit on it. I don't give a shit.
In hardcore, I need rings in a rift.
Say what?
You actually stopped in a rift ID your rings empty?
I did. I was really looking for those 3 items to put into the cube. I really wanted to get those done. Now I really am just kind of looking for ancients, and I need an ancient furnace, and I still need the Johanna's shield, and then I'm done. Like,
is furnace still being used by a lot of classes?
It's being used by Crusader because you can run the great new one-hand weapon that like increases the attack speed. You can just put that in your Kanai's Cube. And
are you playing seasonal or are you playing non-seasonal?
Yeah,
you are. Okay. Have you gotten Bane and the Stricken yet?
I have it, but I haven't been using it because of the fact that I'm not at a point where, as soon as I got the 6 piece of of this, I kill the bosses so fast in T6, T7, which is what I'm running right now, that it's just not worth it. But that will be my eventual.
You know that stacks, right? If you do group play.
In group play, another advantage.
Oh yeah, should you only play solo then?
No, I play both, but I try to play with people I actually know. Like, I don't really find it very much fun to get on and jump in a pub game because of the fact that I hate people who AFK and stuff. It's like, just sign out of the game if you're going to AFK. And then, like, I also really don't like the fact that Whirlwind Barb is back because it's such an anti-group build. And it took it out, and that was one of the best things I think they really did was take that out. You know, like... that's the only quote-unquote nerf that I think was really justified because it left everyone else in the dust. You know, I didn't have a problem at all with the other overpowered builds for the other characters. Like Wizard being able to permanently CC the enemies, that's great for group play. Everyone gets to get involved in that. But Barbarian just running past everything and then they all die. I mean, I think it's terrible design, but...
I don't know. I'm with you. Right now I'm running with 2 barbs though, and it's pretty nice when you're running a difficulty you're not able to really clear by yourself so much. So
are they staying with the group and clearing, or are they just running past?
No, but see that's the thing is it is my responsibility as somebody who is being carried to stay with them. I make it like, you know, if I'm running with barbs rather than I got to kill this, I got to kill that. My goal is to stay with said barb and try to hit stuff ahead of them to at least do some damage. That's usually my goal, but it's harder with different classes and stuff too. And if you're playing, you know, hardcore rather than softcore, obviously that would be different too.
Yeah, mobility skills are still absolutely mandatory. Like, and I guess they're not really going to give us a workaround for that. I kind of was hoping movement speed would give you some options to kind of compete with the bonuses for movement skills, but they're just not doing it. They're just kind of saying, hey, expect to have a movement skill on your bar. That's all right, I guess.
And it's more important than ever now because you have to do entire acts to get, you know, bounties.
Yeah, the bounties, I actually really am enjoying bounties again. I was totally burnt out on trying to get, you know, a good Ring of Royal Grandeur back in the day. But now it's like, it feels somewhat rewarding in that you get the crafting mats, and like I'm not at the point, I probably have like 15 or 20 legendary things put in my cube. And I'm definitely going to try and get every single item I can put in there, so when it rolls over into my regular hardcore, even for the other classes. And I'm enjoying that because it's like I said before, a goal that is accomplishable and you can see it as it's going up. So hopefully it won't become super tedious once I have all the materials I need. But I guess I won't have to do them then.
Well, when you're done, I guess, right? Yeah. Unless you want to continue to, you know, reforge a legendary item 500 times, and you need five of each every single time.
Yeah,
I'm sure I will be at that point at one point or another, but not there yet. Spent most of my materials trying to get my boots for this set, so.
But now you have it.
Yeah, now I've got it. Now went from, you know, doing T3 to T6 and T7 easily. You know, like the damage jump was humongous. And that's where we're at right now. Sets are mandatory.
So the last thing from the chat that we're going to get to a little bit, we can do it briefly probably, is the whole the UI issue. And basically people are pissed that you can only see 8 of your buffs. And in mini builds, that means you're seeing about half the buffs.
Right.
And since it shows them, you know, in order of the longest they've been active, you end up with stuff, you know, like if you're a monk in the game, hey, I see 4 auras forever.
Right.
Or sorry, mantras. They're very, very different than auras. But so... And the Blizzard, you know, why did another philosophical thing on this, and I think most people agree with this thought, you know, you should be able to see, there should be more visibility to ones that actually matter that are up, you know, for 3 seconds at a time or whatever, because you really need to know when that is active.
Yeah.
And just the long-term, you know, the buff from some other guy in the game, you know, the Barbarian's giving you a bunch more hit points or something. It's like, who cares? You know, I mean, It's nice to have it, but you don't need to see that.
And it doesn't affect your gameplay. You know, you don't need that information to make decisions at all.
So the Wyatt he put them all into like 3 different categories and said, you know, you want to see Category 1 all the time, and Category 2 you don't need to see that much, and Category 3 is just like a long-term buff and you don't care.
Right.
And yeah, that'd be great if they were sorted and ranked somehow and you could see them more easily. But of course, we've seen this with many features in the game where they talk about, oh, we're going to get rid of the Realm of Torment, you know, Greater Rift, you know, waves. No one likes waves. Just get rid of those. And then, you know, 9 months later they're gone and it's nice. But in the meantime, everyone's like, why don't you just make us be able to get 5 Rift keys per wave instead of 1 at a time? Just put a Band-Aid on this solution for the next 6 months, and we can be happy. So people are like, why can't we just see 12 or 16 buffs? Just put 2 stacks of buffs. Is that too much to ask instead of just, 1 row of 8?
Dude.
Just do that now, and then when you have this awesome improved system, in time for, V6.4 or something, great, awesome, we'll use it then. But can't we just get a decent fix in the short time?
I thought you knew.
Do you think it's a big issue, and do you think they should prioritize some sort of an upgrade to it?
Flux, I thought you knew Bashiok's mom couldn't handle seeing 10 buffs.
Bashiok mom plays Guild Wars now because Bashiok doesn't know anymore.
Yeah, that's possible. So I think that the solution that already should have been implemented but could easily be implemented was stated right there by one of the users in that Q&A. Just make the most recent buffs the ones that display.
Yeah.
Keep the ones
Instead of
that
the
are,
oldest buffs?
Yeah, keep the oldest ones off to the side, and then if you're not seeing any new ones, then the old ones come back up, Like, that's the most logical thing. The most recent ones are the ones you need to be aware of. Or, if it's something temporary, a time-based one, they could also make it function where ones that are about to run out display. But it's just laughable that they're acting like it's such a complicated decision for which ones they show. I mean, it's simple. Just make the one that's about to end display, or make the ones that are the most recent display. Either of those would improve it tremendously. But, of course, I think it should be fine to at least give the player the option, just like with elective mode, which can you imagine how they were opposed to that initially? Like, give the player the option to show 10 of them. Or
well, they still hide the damn thing.
Right, exactly. You have to find it. And it's because they want people to be able to pick this up and put very little thought in and go around and slay monsters. And that's fine from a development stance, but it's not fine when it restricts everyone else. Like, it's okay to hide the option, but it's not okay to make it so we don't have that option.
Okay, this sounds like it's your version of Veer's set. What do you think on Nerdwords?
I don't know.
This is a crucial issue we need to campaign against.
Yes, but I feel like it's more present with wizards than most other classes because I'm standing in town and I have 7 buffs.
So are
right
you,
now.
dude.
Well, yeah.
You're more present with wizards than other classes.
But no, I mean, I'm standing in town right now. Okay, I'm in a 4-player group. We're not clearing anything. We're standing in town. And I have my Shantoto's Resolve buff. I have the 3-person Strength and Numbers buff. I have my armor buff. I have my weapon buff for Force Weapon. I have the mantra from the monk that's in the group, and my Convention of Elements is going, which means that if I get any buffs from Archon or anything else while I'm actually combating things or someone casts something else, I'm not going to see those at all. That's ridiculous. Like, that's ridiculous to not, especially when you're wearing something like Convention of Elements where you have to know, okay, this 4-second window is when I can do my most damage. It's counterintuitive to the design, and I understand why it was in place originally, but with us adding the cube in and all this stuff, it's like, okay, at this point, we need a Band-Aid fix. We need to be able to see this season, because if this is an entire season problem, that's going to be ridiculous.
And it's going to be ridiculous, in other words.
Hopefully not. They could hotfix that, I feel like, pretty easily.
Well, they don't seem to want to. I think part of this is that there's different programmers for the UI, and they're like bottlenecked, putting in a new emote for the gnome in Hearthstone or whatever. Are there gnomes in Hearthstone? Close enough,
there
right?
are.
So it's just this. I mean, they're doing critical work on other games. They're not just doing bullshit for Hearthstone or whatever. But they can't. This whole thing is like other stuff. They mentioned in a recent chat that they had the whole snapshot thing for your grift clear time. That was in there like months before it was actually visible, because they just said they had a bottleneck on the UI. They had nowhere to display it until they had that awesome pop-up grift window we all like so much. There was nowhere to show off your snapshot of what your gear was when you actually did the grift. So
yeah,
you would think there wouldn't be that much UI to showing sort by most recent instead of sort by least recent, but maybe there is, and maybe they don't want to come out and say, well, we just don't have any programmers to do this, because then we would obviously, fans would say, well, that's bullshit. You guys make $1 billion a month. Can you hire another programmer? So they end up talking about philosophy and design goals and the long-term, amazing system, instead of just saying, we'd love to, but we just don't have enough programmers to do UI, or possibly both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Okay, any final thoughts, guys? Any other topics we didn't get to you wanted to dive into tonight?
Skovos for the expansion. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I did a post on that today, just saying, they mentioned they answered 2 questions about it in the chat, and they were both just like, Skovos is a scary place, dangerous place, which is just quoting what Tyrael says to the NPC.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, the fact that they chose to answer those questions when there were tons of other expansion questions they didn't answer at all.
Yep.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like that was very specific on the choice, especially to say nothing.
Then again, it was the story guy who had like one other question the whole chat. So people weren't like going into like what is Tyrion's motivation in his angst. They were like, more sets, please, PLZ.
And the guy Brian Kindergan or whatever his name is, the story guy, said Skovos is only one dangerous place. Yep. So, he intentionally made it ambiguous.
I'd like to see us. Well, never mind. We've had this conversation. We're not going to get into the lore stuff, but I'd like to the Xingshe, the Wizard capital city would be pretty cool to go back to, but not because I play Wizard. Yes, a little bit because of that, but for anyone who's followed Diablo or the lore, the cycles of Diablo go in historical cycles in time go. Basically, wars between religious sects and then wars between the mage clans. So we're about due for a mage clan war, which would basically mean us going back to the east and going back to those cities, which could bring in necromancers or something else entirely. But I would like to see that. But Skovos would also be pretty cool.
I'm expecting it to be very directly related to what already happened. I'm expecting them to do some type of thing about Cain and how much of a pussy he went out like. Mm-hmm. And, of course, oh my gosh, I guess it's been a long time. What's the girl's name who became...
Leah.
Leah, yeah. Like, I expect them to do something with those characters. Diablo, yeah, exactly. It's possible they might ignore them, but I think they want to try and redeem what came with the initial release. Not because they thought it was bad initially, but they saw the feedback people gave. Like, I think they thought they were making a great game, and gameplay-wise they were, but, man, that story was...
something else.
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't awful on the whole, but it was, there were moments.
Well, at least we got Cool back. Like, Zoltan Cool is the best thing about this game, as far as lore goes. Like, he is the most interesting thing. He was the one character that was ambiguous in any way. Like,
and right, he was correct.
Yeah, he was correct. But everyone else you knew all the way along. Oh, this dude, he's going to wind up betraying you, and this angel, he hates humans, so of course he's going to hate you. Like, they need more of a story that's not just blatantly obvious.
Yeah, but then Bashiak's mom couldn't follow it along, she only watches it briefly while between doing rifts.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's the problem, and I think that happened with Diablo 3 more than anything with Diablo 2. Is that at some point the development team decided, like the player base, that the story didn't matter, because in Diablo 2 it was very story driven. Diablo 1 as well, like the cinematics and everything, the idea or ideology and everything behind it was really cool. I mean, I know it was kind of tacked on, like you said, Flux, but like that was a lot of the draw for a lot of people. It was a really dark and demented story, and it was interesting, and it flowed, but. Diablo 3 was still had a good story, but it's almost like they kind of went away from it. Like they kind of realized, okay, not that many people care about the story. Let's focus on the gameplay, which is not a bad thing. But I feel like if they get back to those roots and get back to telling a really great story with another expansion or a new game, that they'll pull in even more people.
Yeah, I think that's
Well, we've been wondering about that forever, if they're going to make a whole Act 6 or just add on some new Rift tile sets.
If they don't add an act or add story to the content, I wouldn't enjoy paying for the content. I probably still would because I'm a fanboy anyways, but I want the story. I really do.
What if it gave you a new transmog, dude?
You
can only get it by buying
transmog is good as a bonus add-on. It's not something that incentivizes me to pay for something.
Except for the StarCraft expansion packs.
Well, I'll play StarCraft as well. Like, it's not like I'm not going to play.
You don't need the collector's edition, though.
No, but I get the bonus, so I'm good.
Oh, there you go. So it does incentivize you to pay for things.
A little bit more.
That's actually a good question, though, that you asked, Flux, about, like, if it's just DLC versus an expansion. Like, if it's just an extra character and some more riffs, and new items, of course, and a level 80 cap. Who's going to buy it? I think that 95% of the people are going to buy it. So let's hope that Blizzard doesn't catch on and decide to just cut story altogether, because they definitely could do that.
I don't think that they would, man. I would be really sad if they did, obviously.
Play game. Yeah, I would be super disappointed, too, because the thing that I remembered, I played Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, but not nearly as much as I've played Diablo 3. Yeah. But the thing I remembered about those games was the story.
Right.
I freaking loved the atmosphere and the story in those games. And here, we're finally getting a little bit of a darker tone. I mean, I love especially the opening cinematic of the expansion. Like, that was amazing to me.
And all of Act 5 was really great with the story and the way they kind of carried it through. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, they put a lot of effort into trying to redeem what had happened with the initial release. So that's what I'm hoping will happen with this next expansion as well. They'll have the goal of making it the best that it can be, because they want this to be a flagship series. They don't want this to be the redheaded stepchild. The developers don't. Blizzard might not care too much as a whole, but the people working on this game specifically clearly care a ton about it. I mean, they play it all the time.
And they spend a lot of time reiterating on things they don't have to reiterate on. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. They could leave things the way they are and move on to a completely new project. And what would we get to do about it? Well, we could whine, but...
We get to play Diablo 4.
Yeah. Is that what you want, Flux? Are you ready for that?
Your project. I've asked this question in the past, people, and possibly even to you, Nerd Words. And, anybody who's really big on lore. I asked this at Nineball like a year ago, and he had a mental breakdown afterwards. No matter how much you love lore and play the story and stuff, when's the time you played campaign mode in Diablo 3? And how many times have you played it through the whole Act 5 story of Diablo?
And you actually asked me that exact same question myself, and I told you just like I always play. I've already played it twice this season, but I actually like doing the campaign, and it's not vast. Like it's not. You don't lose out on as much. I mean, you're not doing bounties and stuff like that or whatever, but it's fun for me. Like, like if you've ever played any other RPG, like I'm the guy that levels up to max level he possibly can and then runs through the story because you're going to like raffle stomp the whole damn game. But like with Diablo, because it scales, it's cool to like get this character who's Paragon 700 something, and then to run through the campaign on the hardest difficulty to just see how you do against Malthael on Torment 10. Like that'll be fun as shit. Like I like that kind of stuff because it takes the context and wraps it right back around your character. You play the story, you do all this stuff, the reasons why you do these things, your character's motivations, all that stuff, and then you get lost in the grind, right? The rifts, the greater rifts, or whatever, and then going back to the campaign is kind of like, wait, why the fuck was I doing that? Oh yeah, that's right, to obtain this ridiculous amount of power that maybe in an expansion or a new game I can then start a new hero to kill my crazy hero, or return to Xingxie and fight against the mage clans. Well, I mean, or, return to Xingxie and fight against the mage clans who kicked me out, who kicked the wizard out, who she just left and was like, hey, you know what, instead of being a mage, I'm a wizard, fuck you guys, I'm going to go do my thing. And then, I save the world, come back to the capital city and say, suck it, nerds. Like, that stuff would be cool.
You're the only one who does that, though. Everyone else, whenever I ask that question, they're
true.
like, yeah, I never play story mode and I would never notice it.
So
I wonder... Is it really worth the trouble of putting all that in if people aren't going to play it much?
I think that...
You do get a little in town, you see conversations and stuff.
I think that there's a fair amount of players that only play through one time. If you really look at the numbers of sales...
How many of them are maternal relatives of Blizzard employees?
I know a few people. There are several people who are on my friends list still that are friends that bought the game, played through it. I tried to get them into the end game. They didn't really have an interest in it because... wasn't their desire, and they had a good time playing the game. But at that point, they didn't feel like they needed to keep playing.
Right.
And I don't think that it's even half the population or a third of the population, but maybe 20% play it one time. And so Blizzard wants that extra 20% of sales. It's just when they weigh costs, I hope that cost of developing a story and everything isn't, outweighing that 20% of sales.
Well, and if they do it the way they did Act 5, where they add in these really great tile sets, these really cool things, these different events and stuff, I mean, they take time to iterate on, but not as much as, a World of Warcraft full 10-level expansion would as far as story goes. But even with that same, business model, they still build the storyline, and then you play it one time, unless you play an alt, So it's like... It's not like every other game that has the same problem does the same things. If they release Diablo 3, I mean, you might as well just call it Heroes of the Storm if you're just going to release characters and maps and transmog shit. Like it's like the action RPG dungeon crawl style has a story embodied in it, even if it's not important to you. I understand that, but in Diablo 2 it wasn't important to everybody, but everyone knew who the fuck Baal was. They knew who Mephisto was, and like why you were going down there to fight him. Like so, it exists. They just got to do a better job of bringing that into the overarching story. And the whole thing with Auric and using your character to level up through these rifts, which are technically surreal entities. I mean, you're not technically fighting in the actual world. You're fighting in
just a test.
Something that exactly like wrap that context back around what you're doing. Like, why were we doing these tests? Why were we spending this time grinding and getting this power? What happens to our character next? And that's exciting for me. And I know it's not exciting for necessarily every single person, but on some degree, people aren't going to bitch to see, oh shit, now my dude's gone dark side, or whatever happens next. I think they'll still be excited and still enjoy it at least one time through.
Right.
And also, I think another issue is that they've been giving us so much content for free in patches that they can't suddenly be like, well, here's the same thing as a patch, but it's got like a new tile set. Give us $20.
Yeah, and a new character. I think they can. That's what I'm afraid they're going to do, but I don't think they will. I think that if they were going to do that, it would have come sooner. I think they have to have been working on an expansion with, a little over 2 years now.
Yeah.
So I think they'll definitely do it. I mean, Brian Kindergarten there has not been on the team for the last 2 years just to answer questions and chat about Skovos.
Yeah.
He hasn't been polishing his fingers for the last 18 months. Maybe someone will ask about Skovos. Finally, I get a chance to do something. He's probably not there, play testing out, Veer's set. Or maybe he is, then that's the problem, Nerdworks, huh?
Maybe that's it. Maybe the story guys are doing it.
It's the Duke Nukem Forever issue. Like, the developers have just been playing their build, and they'll never release it to the public.
Well, why would they? We'll just get our dirty hands on it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's too good for us. But yeah, I think certainly for economic reasons, they will do an Act 6 with a whole story and stuff, just because that's why you can charge $40 for the expansion pack. You know?
Yeah.
They're not doing Heroes of the Storm. It's not it's not pay as you go. It's not $5 a patch. They're still in the old financial model with StarCraft and Diablo 3. Mm-hmm. And maybe all their other games are going to be DLC or whatever, or free to play. All these other models now, but it doesn't seem like we're getting, we all want Stash for Cash. People have been saying ever since the Chinese D3 went live, let us pay for this. We would love to pay for this.
Yeah.
And that was the one topic they really dodged in the chat. And there was never an actual answer about Stash Base, except for Nevelissa saying we're working on it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it at the expansion release.
Out.
So maybe
announcement.
Yeah, my thought is maybe they're saving some big announcement on Stash Base for the expansion, and we're going to see that in November.
Probably so. I could see that being a line item. But the problem is again, though, that, they said the cube was going to fix that. And do you guys feel any better about your stash base now that you got the cube? No, fucking nobody does, because everyone's still saving everything.
Yeah, you got to save the ancient version.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah, you can trash the stuff that's going to be easily replaceable, but we were already doing that because we had no space for it. I mean, anyone who plays more than one character is absolutely screwed, and people who play one character still are feeling a crunch. So that's a big issue. Yep.
And I said that. As soon as they said that, I was like, that's so much bullshit. I'm still going to save and I'm doing it. I have an Obzod ring in my actual, cube, but I still have a pretty well-rolled Obzod ring, on my character in case I want to wear it and not use it in my cube, right? And if I find a better one, I'm going to cycle that through, and I'll have that all season.
Just be glad you don't play hardcore where you actually have to keep backups of your gear because you might die.
I can imagine.
I've got a line in each one of my tabs, a line of the set that I'm currently using. The gear I'm currently using is on the top, my second best version of it, and that's a huge amount just to keep my backups for that. But I have to have everything else I might use too.
How about you just try not dying?
Yeah, I try really hard, Flux.
Just don't be a noob, dude. Your problems are over.
No one ever dies from anything but a DC. So I don't. It's all Blizzard's fault whenever I die.
You mean a Diablo cannon when he shoots that big laser blast at you? Because that gets me every time. It's tricky that way.
No, I think with the lifesaver passives, the deaths in hardcore have gone down so much. The only people who really die in hardcore are people who aren't paying attention. I mean, you've got CC breaks and
wizards who blame Unstable Anomaly.
Well, Unstable Anomaly still doesn't function completely. I mean, the last time I died in hardcore was with my monk, and I had the lifesave proc or passive on, but it wasn't the fully functional version it is now. And I exploding palmed, and the elites happened to pop up reflect when a big pack exploded, and I died instantly from full health. And that was bullshit because I was I had the life save, but the life save didn't work correctly. Now that it works, I don't think I could really die unless I'm not paying attention.
Well, good luck with that. When you're pushing 5 GRs above your head trying to get a record the season.
Exactly.
So last question. What do you got briefly here? What are you guys planning for the rest of the season? I mean, it may go 12 months for all we know with these things, but probably going to go 4 months. Run until about the end of the year. Of course, that was season 1, right? And then it went to middle of February suddenly because they were all on vacation.
See, I'm thinking that people need to prepare for the same thing. People need to prepare for the middle of February because
don't go there, dude. We can't get into the topic. So, what are you planning long term this season, Nerdbirds? Are you going to get to Paragon 801? Are you just going to play as much as you can and see how it goes? Do you have a goal?
I always have a goal. I always want to finish in the top 100, and I've been able to do it every season. So I'm going to play enough to do that while still maintaining my real life. So I plan on grind and doing what I can, and then If for some reason I have just ample amounts of time at the end of it, I may even roll Demon Hunter, because I still haven't done that, and I've been talking about it for 3 seasons.
Well, you don't care about Demon Hunter until next to the PTR. Then you can try the close range.
I do actually kind of want to do that a lot, but I've said that I wanted to try the Secret of the Light set. I wanted to try the new, I want to try on Halidescent set for Demon Hunter. So it's like, yeah, I might as well just can all of those ideas and just keep playing my wizard.
Just admit it, dude.
Yeah.
Accept. So speaking of accepting and admitting, what are your plans for the season, MT1?
I am planning on completing the seasonal journey to get the last portrait frame and getting to P400 or 500. If I accomplish both those things in in a few months, then I probably will put the game down for a while. But if it takes me 5 months to do that, which I don't expect it to, then I'll be playing for the the entire season. So we'll see. Right now, I just want to accomplish the couple of goals that I have and try and get some better versions of the gear I already have. Nothing.
Today we are almost exactly 2 months from the start of BlizzCon. Do you expect that your Diablo 3 routine will change greatly in 2 months and a day? Based on new information that may or may not be revealed?
No, because we all know that this stuff's going to be devalued when the new expansion comes out. Like, I'm not going to feel super motivated to grind even more because the XP we get after the expansion is going to be much greater than the XP we get now.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll have to redo the whole Paragon system in terms of you can't go into, assuming we do get another full-featured expansion, people entering into this at Paragon 400 versus Paragon 2700 or something? Will they somehow redo it all and people can start from scratch because it's gotten so far out of whack with what the values of higher Paragon levels are?
I think that if they do that, they're going to have a lot of really bad feedback from the people that have invested time. I think they should just realize that people who have...
the 0.01% of the player population that are over Paragon 1000?
Right. Well, I mean, but those are the most vocal people. These are the people that are talking about it all the time. I think they should just realize that the expansion doesn't necessarily have to be challenging on normal difficulty and actually scale it for the higher difficulty for people that have played, tons and tons of time. We don't need everything.
I don't know, man. Bashiak's mom is trembling right now. Trembling in her little house shoes. She's like, oh, I don't know. I don't like that idea. That means we can't do it.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. I'm hoping they'll realize that everyone doesn't have to start on equal footing or even really that close to equal footing. The new gear, all they're really doing is kind of slowing people down a tiny bit by making the Paragons less valuable. But it's still gonna hurt if we lose a lot of power.
Any final thoughts, Nerds?
I love that I found my wand. Aside from that, no, I'm good.
That was like an hour ago, man. You've gotten over that by now.
Yeah, no, I'm still stoked.
How many Chantota's wands have you found in your entire Diablo 3 playtime?
Oh my god, hundreds of thousands.
I was going to say over 100?
Wand is stupid as shit, and then they changed it this patch, and now it's important, and I'm mad about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I threw away an ancient version of that, just a little while ago on my softcore, because I do play a softcore wizard every once in a while.
So does Nerdwords.
Yeah, every once in a while.
Just every now and then. Yeah.
I haven't found anything while I've been playing for this last hour and a half. I feel ripped off. Blizzard, give me drops.
Yeah.
I'm not even playing, so you guys are ahead of me this time.
I'm trying to get my...
I don't want to level up too fast this
Flux,
season.
if you want me to power level you, just hit me up.
I'm trying to utilize my podcaster buff.
Yeah, the podcaster buff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get double experience
while playing while podcasting gives you a 50% increase to legendary.
It's not as good as being a streamer, but it's something.
Yeah,
right?
it's a little something.
Okay, thanks for your time, guys. We've been this is the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at diabloii.net, and we'll have more bullshit to read this week on the internet, I'm sure.
Yay!
There's very little of that around the internet. Now that lots of you guys are back in school and you have to find ways to kill time in class, you can read more Diablo news and comments and stuff. And then when you get home after class, you can watch porn or whatever it is you do in college these days.
Don't promote either of those things. Let's promote learning.
Porn is learning. It's sex ed.
That's some messed up sex ed.
I mean, you do what you gotta.
That would explain our declining birth rates across the entire Western world these days. Okay, you've listened to the Diablo 3 podcast. Moo.
Moo. Moo. Moo. Moo. Moo. Moo.
Moo. Moo.